The girl in Ipanema, or the girl from Ipanema. Girl from Ipanema. Oh. Do I even have? No, I can't even hear anything through these headphones. I'd be wearing them for no real good reason if I put them on. Hi, two of you. Let's see here. Oh my goodness, this week is crazy. One of you. Okay, so I lost a viewer already. Sorry, geez. I don't think, though, that I lost you, Daniel. Okay, now I'm up to 4. All right, it's starting to grow. Hi, channel name. If that is your real channel name. Why is your name channel name? Is that meant to be a joke? Or is there a story there? I'm curious to know. Yeah, I knew you wouldn't do me like that, Daniel. You are a dedicated person, and I appreciate you. Thank you for being so dang dialed in when I do stuff. You are there, and it just makes me feel really good. Thank you. How has my week been? Okay, well, so first of all, hi, little office hours chat. The reason that I'm doing this, I mean, I had initially planned for this week's Techsploder podcast episode with Alex Kantrowitz to be a premiere at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is right now. And that's kind of how it's going to go going forward. Is I'm going to do the live recording of the interview with patrons, and then the premiere of the actual like edited podcast will happen at 10 a.m. on Fridays. And then I can be in the chat and chat with you while we watch it. And then I had planned on like opening up a little live stream for like 30 minutes or something afterwards anyways, just to like catch up and everything. But this morning when I was kind of like finalizing the podcast and setting it up in YouTube and everything, I got to the final screen. Thankfully, I had everything else done. So thankfully I wasn't like doing pre-work, which sometimes I do with this. I'll like do the things I know how to do and then go back and fill in information and then, send it off. Hey, Tay. Good to see you, Tay. Yeah, look at you not at work. Good work not working. Anyways, thankfully it was in a good enough state because I got to the point. I don't know how many of you are familiar with kind of like the publishing kind of process on YouTube, but you get to your final screen and it's like, what do you want to do with this? Do you want this to be a private video? Do you want it to be unlisted? Or do you want it to go live? Do you want to publish this? And then below publish this is a live premiere checkbox. And my eyes only saw premiere, but not live premiere, instant premiere. And my eyes only saw premiere. They didn't see the instant part. And an instant premiere is essentially, I want to publish this now, but I want it to be a viewing party for whoever happens to know this right now. And so the problem that I ran into with that is, once the instant premiere is happening, like I hit okay. It was one of those situations, I'm sure you've all been there. Like I do this a lot with like tweets and stuff where I'll type something out and then I'll hit enter. And the second I hit enter, I notice I've got a misspelled word and I have to immediately delete it. Well, I had that with this. The second I hit go, I was like, oh no, that was an instant premiere. That's not what I wanted. And I tried to cancel it and I couldn't. Then I went into my like content list and there was absolutely no way to stop it. Like, it was just like, nope, we're premiering now. You said you wanted this to premiere. So we've sent the call out to people. People are watching and there's nothing you can do about it. And so I just had to like, okay, lesson learned. Next time I need to slow down a little bit. But the interface to like get there is a little confusing. It's like what I'm looking for in that moment. Hello, Rob. Welcome. Thank you for being here. what I'm looking for when I go there is, oh, well, I want to do a premiere. Oh, there's the word premiere. Okay. And I think, let me see here. How could I check this? Because this is super interesting for those of you who don't publish things to YouTube. You probably couldn't care less, but I don't know how to do this without uploading another video. But anyways, you get to the final screen, and I think that there is a schedule button below all that. So it doesn't say premiere, but it says schedule. And that's what my eye needs to look for, is schedule. Because once you open that, then you can schedule the date, and then you can tell it, yes, on that date, it's going to publish, but it's going to publish as a premiere. And that's what I need to do going forward. So anyways, that's my long way of saying, oops. And I was going to open up a live stream after the premiere anyway. So then I was like, okay, well, if the premiere is not happening at 10 a.m. Pacific, I might as well just open up a live stream for 30 minutes and talk and, read your comments, like channel name addressing what I had asked earlier and said, hey, channel name, is that your real name? And channel name says, no, I legitimately didn't realize my name showed up like that. Well, now you know. And knowing is half the battle. What you going to do now? Huh? You're going to change it? I mean, you could just lean into it. Is that like a default or something? That's interesting. Yeah, there must be a bunch of channel names floating around if that is a default. But anywho, Rob, yes, welcome. Video quality of YouTube premieres is always terrible. Video quality, what do you mean? Like the playback quality? Because well, you know what? I think I know what you're talking about, which is if I was to go into YouTube and upload a video and then immediately publish it when I get to that screen, YouTube might not have had the chance to do all of its transcoding into all the different quality levels. And so what you get, and I've read this as like a best practices, is if you're publishing a video, upload it and then wait a couple of hours, because that gives YouTube the opportunity, the chance to transcode. And so if you publish it immediately, you're almost guaranteed to just get a standard definition video going out. And that's not good, because, if your channel is of a certain level, which I can't very well say that my channel is there yet, but it's, it's growing, but it's not quite at the level that this would make that much of a difference. But if it's of a certain level, then the way YouTube's algorithm works and discovery and all that is that it would start throwing out, opportunities for people to watch your video from the moment you set it live, and they're all going to get the standard definition. They're going to be wondering, like, why does it look like crap and stuff? So YouTube recommends, or best practices, I don't know if YouTube actually recommends it, but is that you upload and then you wait a couple of hours, at least, depending on the length of the video. It might take longer, but I had uploaded this video last night, so I wasn't too worried about that. And I watched the premiere and the quality looked great. So I think that's just what it, what it comes down to. Let me see. Gotta redo some of the screen resolution here so I can actually see things. Man, my eyesight. So interesting thing about eyesight. Don't know if y'all saw the Android Faithful episode this week. We were at Google I/O. God, everything I've done this week has been pretty much Google I/O, which is great. This has been my busiest content week yet. I've just been slammed, and I still have more coming, apparently, because I'm doing this. Like, this will end up being on the channel too, so it's kind of crazy. But we were at Google I/O on Tuesday, and we got to record what has become a tradition now, which, man, I'm so grateful for that. Like, Google truly loves working with us, and they tell us that. And, and so we're there with Samir Samat and Dave Burke, two very, senior executive level people, calling the shots on the Android platform. And we have this at this point, and I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch, but I mean, we've been doing this now for like 6 years, 5, 6 years, 7 years, something like that, maybe missing a year somewhere in there. But, we wondered, like, is this gonna continue when we're Android faithful, not all about Android? And sure enough, like they're like, how can we work with you more? Like, we really enjoy this. So that's good. Anyways, because I have done what I've done the last handful of months, I have all this gear. So essentially I was tech, behind the camera tech guy for the interview, which was totally fine by me, by the way. I was perfectly fine to not do the interview this time around. I've done the interview. Usually I'm kind of like the lead person driving it and have been in the interviews that we've done from IO in the past. So it was kind of nice. It was kind of nice to not have to um not be in that role again. I would have done it happily and I would have enjoyed doing it again, but it was a nice reason for a break, right? But I got to be behind the scenes and, I basically had like 30 minutes to set everything up. And I had, plotted out the day before all the equipment in this room, had it all on the floor, had it in my mind, how everything was going to route and, everything. And it went really, really well. But um, if you watch the video interview, you will notice that the camera that's on Samir and Dave, which is arguably the most important camera to get right, when you've got guests like that, is blurry for about 2/3 of the video. And the reason for that is because, yes, Rob, getting old, my eyesight is not what it used to be. I mean, I've always worn glasses or contacts, but I've got readers now. And depending on what I'm doing, I got to put on my old guy readers. And I had them with me there, but I was nowhere near my bag where the readers were. And the interview had already gone underway. And my monitor, my confidence monitor for the interview is let's see here, is this size. So, it's a 4K confidence monitor, but it's not gigantic. And it was probably, it was a little ways away from me. And so I didn't notice until about halfway through the interview. I was like, is it my eyesight or is their camera like not in focus? And I just, had a lot of things going on in that, that I was wrangling. I was working the audio board. I was switching video because we had two cameras set up and I had an A10 Mini, have an A10 Mini Pro ISO that I'm actually using right now for this. And so, I mean, by all accounts, it doesn't matter. Like the audio was spot on. I did have to do some correction to the audio. My signal path wasn't perfect, but anyways, it all worked out and Google was very happy with it. But, these are all those details that like when I see them, it's really hard. So like as I was watching the video and getting it prepped and everything like that, those kinds of things, like when I notice them, it's like uncomfortable for me to like watch it, even though anybody else is probably like, oh, I don't care, like, yeah, it's slightly out of focus, who cares, whatever, big deal. But it becomes uncomfortable for me to watch it. And I'm like, oh, it's just because of regret, like, oh, I was so close, I almost stuck the landing. Maybe AI could have fixed the image, but I got back. So I was down in Mountain View. I woke up at like 5 a.m., which is no big deal. Like that's what time I usually wake up. And so it's like I'm in practice for something like this. And I hit the road, went to Mountain View, had my whole day, did the interview, had dinner with Ron Richards. We had an excellent, oh my God, it was so good. Went to this like noodles and dumplings place that was just, oh, it was delicious. Had soup dumplings. Oh, it was so good. Oh, I'd never had soup dumplings before. They were delicious. And then I hit the road to go home. And by the time I got home, it was like almost 9 p.m. And the very next day, I had AI inside, which we did. And the embargo for some of the stuff from the interview would lift. So we knew at 10 a.m. Wednesday that interview needed to publish. That was when the embargo lifted and we could publish based on some news that they were talking about in the interview. And so I knew for myself that I didn't want to go to bed on Tuesday night until I had the file done, which is kind of like what I did last night with the Textploder podcast and uploading it to YouTube and all that stuff. I just don't like waking up in the morning and having a finite amount of time and hoping that I can get everything I need to get done. I'd rather do it the night before or days before if I can, and just be sure, like be certain that when I go to bed the night before, like there's no stress in the morning. It's just like, yeah, okay, I got to update some metadata. That's fine. But I don't have to like finalize the edit. And, who knows, I encounter some sort of technical issue or who knows what happens. Like I hate that feeling. So I didn't get to bed until probably like 11:30, which is late for me. Nowadays, that's pretty late for me, because I still end up waking up at like 5:30, even if I don't want to. Even if I'm like, oh, okay, I'll sleep in because I stayed up late. Like my eyes they open around 5 or 5:30. So, anyways, but yeah, it was busy. It was like all day Tuesday, Google I/O. Come back, do that Wednesday, AI Inside, and had Mike Elgin joined Jeff and I, and it was a fantastic episode. We had a lot of fun talking about Google I/O and the crazy like long laundry list of AI announcements. And then also about ChatGPT, the GPT 4o, and contrasting those things. And then it was turning that around. And then Thursday morning, I was invited to join Micah Sargent for an interview on Tech News Weekly about Google I/O. And then I was also invited Thursday to join the DTNS show, Daily Tech News Show, as a guest to talk about, the news, but also to compare Google's Gemini announcement to OpenAI's GPT-4o announcement. So it's been really busy, and then I had to edit the Textploder podcast that I recorded on Monday and get that ready. Went to bed late-ish, not horrible late, but later than I would normally. And then wake up this morning, make the mistake with the publishing of it and doing this. So, and while I was at Google I/O, I got interviewed for an article. That was pretty cool. Haven't had that in a really long time. Let me see if I can throw that up on the screen here. Janko Rutgers, if you're familiar with his writing, he's an excellent journalist. I'm a big fan of his work. And he was there. And he talked to me about kind of the feature that Google had shared about AI summaries of videos. And let's see here. Saw that I left this up. And he was like, hey, well, you're a creator. You want to talk to me about this article that I'm writing about like how creators feel about, as particularly YouTube creators feel about an AI summarizing the contents of their video. And so I talked to him about that for the article. And yeah. So you should read the article. Could Google's AI push cause a rift with YouTube creators? But it was fun to be interviewed for something like that. Like I haven't had that in a really long time. I was trying to think, like, I know it's happened, but I've done a really poor job of keeping like a list of. Do you hear that? I don't know if you hear that. That's my puppy with a chew toy, and he really needs to get out right now, and so he's just like making lots of weird noises to try and like drive me. Yeah, it kind of sounds like aliens, doesn't it? It's it's like a big rubbery chew toy thing that he likes to chew on. Anyways, yeah, I've done a horrible job of collecting like interviews like that as they happen. Things like that. I'd show you the puppy, but he's not like a puppy that I can pick up. He's like 90 pounds. and the camera is fixed. Like, is there a way? I wonder if there's a way for me to like cast my my phone camera into StreamYard. I'll have to look that up. That'd be cool. But yeah, he's pretty adorable. He's also a handful. He which I mean all puppies are, but he just likes to chew things. But he doesn't chew furniture. But he does, you know, he'll find socks, he'll find towels, he'll go outside and eat wood chips. He'll eat anything, man. Anyways, puppies. Yeah, I do think that I need a puppy cam, some way to like shine it on him, because I think you would immediately start going, "Oh, that's so cute." So anyways, yeah, got interviewed by Yanko, and it was nice to be on the other side of that. So when I'm looking at like what I did this week, well, and then I did a video, kind of like a summary video on the TechSploder YouTube channel about, you know, kind of things that I didn't get to talk about on AI Inside. And yeah, so I'm looking through. It's like Andrew Faithful, AI Inside, TechSploder kind of Google I/O thingy, TechSploder podcast, Alex Kantrowitz, Tech News Weekly interview, Daily Tech News Show, Fast Company article, Office Hours. Whew, I'm kind of amazed that I'm here with you right now, because I think a part of me, if it were another week, I would have been like, I'm exhausted. Like, I'm not going to open up a stream because I've done so much already. But I wanted to see you. Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a way to pop a phone into this. I just don't know how to do it easily and quickly. I would love to be able to. StreamYard phone input. Join live using your phone. Oh, I guess I could do that. Hold on. Let's see if we can make. No, it's not a lot of work actually, now that I think about it, because StreamYard has an invite function. So I can just join it with my phone, and then my phone is another camera. Ooh, now I got to figure this out. Okay, so be patient with me. Let's see if we can figure this out, because that opens up some really cool things for me if I do this. And I think this is how Ron does his product cam for Android Faithful. So it's not like this is breaking news worthy thing. It's just something I haven't tried yet. Okay. This is totally going to work. Okay, but I'm going to mute this one. Okay. Enter studio. Hi. Oh, so puppy cam. Okay. Enter studio. I'm backstage. Hold on. Oh, okay. Got to mute. Why is it still playing? I muted it. That's so weird. Even though I muted it, it's still playing. Huh. Okay, well, I'm going to ignore that, and I'm just going to take it. Okay, so puppy cam. Oh, man, really? I can't like pop to the other. Oh, stream this to your. Okay, all right, fine. There's the puppy. Hi, Bronson. You're not chewing your thing anymore. Yeah, see, he's a big doggy. He is probably like 85 pounds. And Bronson, stop it. He sometimes gets a little obsessive with his paws and like licking at them. And he's already had like an infection because of it that we had to, or maybe he has a dog tail. You have a dog tail in there, buddy? No? Isn't he cute though? I gotta say, we have a damn cute dog. Look at that guy. He's adorable. Yeah, you are adorable, buddy. You're a good boy. Yes. Here. This is the toy that he was chewing on. and it makes noises. Anywho, see, where there's a will, there's a way. Now, what I can't figure out is how to mute this phone, because I've turned down the volume, and yet it's still because it's coming through the phone and not the speaker. That's so weird. Okay, well, I'm going to leave and stop that now. You've seen the dog. You got what you came for. Yeah, so let me see here. I'm just kind of looking through. Yeah, you know what? It worked. I mean, why wouldn't it? You know, I did the search, and immediately the second I hit enter in Google, it was like, oh, well, I could just join from my phone. Like, of course, that makes a lot of sense. And so now that I know that, I'm going to do that in the future when I have like a product to show on like Android Faithful or whatever. But I do have to figure out the muting of the audio, because that was really annoying. Everything that I said would come through, even though I had the volume completely turned down. So I don't understand why that is. Yeah, I checked all the volume controls, Tay. They were all down, and yet it still was playing through. So I don't understand. I don't get it. Puzzled. Tay, earlier you asked, do you find yourself running out of coffee? No. I mean, we have a good supply of coffee. We keep ourselves pretty stocked when it comes to coffee. But I don't overdo it on coffee. I wake up at 5 usually, and usually the first thing I do, you know, kind of like wash my face, kind of wake up a little bit there. But I come into the kitchen and I make myself a tall Americano with whipping cream, not whipped cream, but with whipping cream. And oh, it's so good. And you know, it's a container that's probably about that big. So it's not small. It's like that big. And that's my coffee. Like, I don't drink any more than that. Rarely I will. But I've had the experience where I drank too much coffee and then I get all jittery and weird, and I don't like that feeling. So I just kind of cap it and figure like, okay, tomorrow will be the next coffee. That's okay. When I worked at Twit, I would definitely, there was a long period there where I got very used to the afternoon coffee, and I had to peel myself back from that. And then I like hit a point to where I was like, all right, I need to just stop with coffee for a while. And I stopped for many months. I stopped drinking coffee, and, you know, which I don't know how many of you have tried that. It is not easy to do, but then you kind of you move through that, and you get to the point to where you don't need the coffee as much anymore to be awake. You're just kind of like naturally awake. And then on the other side of that, I started just drinking, because I missed kind of the ritual of coffee. I started to drink decaf instead of regular. And I did that for probably like a year and a half. And, you know, it was great. Like, I actually really liked the quality of the decaf coffee we were drinking and everything. And then, you know, it's a slippery slope. You do it that one time, you're like, yeah, I'll have caffeinated coffee this time. And then you do, and you're like, ooh, that was good. So anyways, Lawn Dog is here. What's up, Lawn Dog? Let me see here. I'm going back. Oh, yeah, thank you, Lon. It is nice to be noticed by somebody in the industry. Absolutely. Yeah, like, you know, the interview with Alex Kantrowitz, you know, I look at Alex and I'm just like, man, this guy knows of what he speaks. He's interviewed Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey. He's interviewed this, and we talk about this in the podcast, but he's interviewed this caliber of technology, you know, icons that I've not interviewed. I've interviewed some pretty cool people, but I've not, you know, entered that echelon, right, of interview. And so he's got really wonderful access. He's excellent at what he does. And he was, you know, he kind of poured it on me when I was talking with him. I was like, man, thank you. Like, it feels good to be recognized for that. You know, because I'll be honest, there were definite times at Twit where I was like, you know, I know that what I'm doing makes a lot of people happy, people who are fans of Twit, but I didn't know where that extended outside of the Twit walls. It's kind of like the Twit community, they were already sold on what we were doing. They were already there. In the times where I considered like, well, what happens if I don't work at Twit anymore? What do I do? Um, I would often be faced with kind of the doubt surrounding like, who am I if I'm not at Twit? Do I have any reputation outside of the walls of Twit? Do I have any, you know what I mean? Like it was what, like I was so grateful for the opportunity that I had to be within Twit for as long as I was, and to be exposed to the community and everything. There was also a voice inside of me that was like, how much of this is I work for Leo, and Leo has this wonderful following, and I'm kind of like a, I don't know, and a supporting cast. You know what I mean? Versus like, do I have my own thing? And I knew that I had some form of my own thing going on there, and I still don't know that I'm exactly clear on what that actually is, but I do know that moving on from Twit has helped me realize that I did build a pretty solid foundation for myself and my career and my reputation in the industry and everything. And I'm really happy about that. But I definitely questioned it while I was there. Like, how much of this is about me and what I'm doing versus the fact that I'm doing it for the Twit network, and the Twit network is this machine that people already know of, so anyways, that's just an aside. And by no means do I say any of that, to like downplay anything. Like, I'm happy with what I got to do at Twit, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that I was given while I was working there. And I don't think that I'd be able, I'd be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't had a lot of that exposure and that opportunity and stuff. So yeah, anyways. So that's that. Clinton, yeah, we talked about it a little bit, but I accidentally fired off an instant premiere instead of a scheduled premiere. So it premiered at like some random time, like 8:13 a.m. Pacific. And I immediately tried to stop it, and there's no going back once it starts. So anyways. Tay, is that like coffee creamer? Well, I mean, it's whipping cream. You can either buy the whipped cream, or you can buy whipping cream, which is like a very thick cream, thicker than like coffee creamer. And, it's got a little bit of sweetness to it usually. And my wife and I just started drinking that in our coffee, and it just makes it so good. Cause I'm not a huge, like, I drink my coffee black kind of guy. I know people are, and I have, and I can, but the way I enjoy a coffee, Americano with a little bit of whipping cream to kind of give it that creamy kind of quality to it. That's how I like it. So, Lawn Dog says, I think because of the income flow that Twit Studios, things are going to change and equipment is going to be available. Hopefully you can get things when, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know that I need more than what I have right now, to be honest. I did have to pick up, and by the way, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope they don't have to do like a fire sale or anything like that. I know that they've switched their approach. I think they're doing more stuff from home now, right? Not necessarily at the studio. That's my understanding. They got to do what you got to do to keep in business, and I give them all the, my positive energy in the world to make that happen. I'm not looking for them to like go into fire sale mode so I can score some equipment. Like I have most of what I really need right now. And actually, in all honesty, I probably have more than what I need right now. When I first started doing the independent thing, I fell into the model that I followed was based on what I've experienced. And what I've experienced is working for either Twit or CNET, two places that had a foundation, they had money, they had an insane amount of equipment and could strive to, and they had, people, they had workforce to try to allow them to create content at a level that is higher than just like, oh, well, I turned on my webcam or my phone and just recorded something and published it. That's my foundation, is that level of quality. And so it's really hard for me to undo that. And so when I went out independent, the first like month was pricing out all this equipment that I felt like I needed to do it the way I wanted to. And I'd say about 80% of the purchases I made, I'm happy I made, and probably about 20% I'm like, well, I probably didn't need to do that. But you know what? It's the cost of starting a business. In the end, I spent a lot less on starting my business than other people would if they were in a different industry. Now I just have to make that money back at some point. But so long story short, I have plenty of equipment. I did have to pick up a second Howell mic for the interview this week at IO. But Android Faithful, we got some kind of money hanging out there, so that's paying for that. I also had to pick up a analog mixer because we had 5 sources and my audio interface can only support 4 inputs. And so I just got an audio mixer. It wasn't that expensive. It was like $150. And, again, I think that's going to be paid out of the Android Faithful kitty. And, so I've got a good amount of equipment. It was actually pretty funny because we showed up there and Mishal, a couple of times he made the comment. He was like, how do you know how to do all this stuff? How do you have all this stuff? I'm like, well, before I, was a podcaster, I was behind the scenes and doing all this stuff. Like that's what my training was audio production and, eventually video production before I ever started podcasting. And, even when I was in front of the microphone at CNET and then later at Twit, I was still doing a lot of the tech stuff. It wasn't until 2017, I think, that Lisa said, hey, I think you could be a full-time host. Do you want to do Tech News Today with Megan Maroney? And, it's 5 days a week and launch other shows. I think you could do it. It wasn't until then that I was like, oh, you mean I don't have to edit video anymore? Wow. Okay. And I actually expected to miss that quality of my job. And I did, to a certain degree I did, but I got really used to and comfortable with the fact that like my time could just be about creating stuff and not going back to it after I was done kind of producing and creating the content and like refining it and packaging it and releasing it and making sure it has all the keywords and, all that stuff. I had to do a little bit of that stuff post the switch, but most of it, we had a team for that. And whoa, man, there is some serious value to that. I have deeply considered trying to figure out how I bring someone into what I'm doing to edit video, because that, when I look at my time that's spent, especially on like the longer form, like reviews content, like podcasts, that's one thing. But long form reviews content, it takes a lot of time. You got to shoot all the B-roll. And I mean, that's something that I would have to do anyways, but then editing it all together and then getting your graphics right and getting your music. And I tend to get a little impatient and I'm like, I just want to get it out and move on. Like in my perfect world, I'd be putting out probably twice as much content as I am right now. But I can't because I have to edit it. And I'm not making enough money really to hire a full-time editor. Do I even have enough work for a full-time editor? I don't know. I'd probably start part-time, but I do believe that if I could do that, I could probably scale faster. And so I'm kind of in this predicament right now where I'm like, okay, I've got a lot of ideas. I'd love to do them. I can't do them when I'm locked into doing everything. So what does that look like? Is it worth losing money in the beginning on the hope that I can scale up everything and make that money back eventually. It's kind of like the you know, the uh the tech business blueprint of you got to lose money to build build the audience, and then you make it eventually, you know. Like, I wonder if that's the right approach. Anyways, I'm not looking at comments right now. I'm rambling, so let me scroll down. um um Thank you, Tay. Thank you, Daniel, for telling me I'm a good podcaster. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So Tay, you're saying you've always been really enjoyable to watch. A really nice guy. Thank you. But going forward, you need to be hard hitting with your self promotion. I'm sure none of us would mind. I appreciate hearing that, because self promotion is really hard for me. And I'm getting better at it. But it is, yeah, it's not the sort of thing that I tend to feel completely comfortable with. Paul says, I am just here because I thought you were exploding tech videos. Well, maybe that's a side project I could work on. What would that look like? What would it look like for me to explode tech videos? I don't know. I could download Marquez's latest tech video, put it on the latest Samsung Galaxy Tab, take that out back, attach an explosive to it, and record it in super slow-mo. Oof. I think you might be onto something, Paul. Although that might send a message that I don't want to send about Marquez's videos, because I actually really have always loved his work. Man, that dude is unstoppable. So I wouldn't be exploding them because I didn't like them. I'd be exploding them because that's how you get the views, right? I don't know. I don't want my views to come from something that's super kind of like, I don't know, a trick. You know what I mean? Or a gimmick. That's the word I'm looking for. Oh, Drew. So you stopped subscribing to Twit when Ant and I left. It was the best content. So does you, and not just the brand. I appreciate that. I mean, you know, I'm not saying that I appreciate that you left Twit. You can do whatever you want, you know, and people will, and everything. I totally support what Twit is doing. And I understand what you're saying. You know, we attach ourselves, we get close to certain people in these places, and their work is what matters. And I think that's what it's taken me a long time to kind of get comfortable with, is that I do have a base. I do have a foundation, a community that has followed me around. And some of you have followed me around for almost 20 years now. And just, I love it. I don't know if I ever mentioned this. I had a situation not too long ago where I was, it was actually last Halloween, and I was out with our family in a neighborhood here in Petaluma. And we were, you know, doing the trick-or-treating thing. I was not dressed up. This is the first Halloween that I did not dress up. Me and my wife, we both did not. Every Halloween since we've had kids, we've dressed up and done a family, like a combined family costume. So, you know, one year we were Super Mario, one year we were Circle, 7-Eleven. Anyways, we had all these, like, you know, we were s'mores one year, that sort of thing. This year I was not. And we were outside and it was dark. And you know, it was dark. Like, it was nighttime, and we were walking the neighborhood of this really busy kind of Halloween, you know, impacted neighborhood, kids everywhere, parents following behind. And suddenly some guy stops me and he's like, "Hey, you're Jason Howell, right?" Like, yeah. And he's like, "I'm just a huge fan. I heard your voice. I recognized it." And we sat there and talked for 10 minutes. Now, those opportunities, those moments don't happen very often to me, but when they do, it feels really great to be, to be recognized, because that tells me that, like, people are watching and are enjoying, and B, just to, like, get the chance to, like, talk to folks who I know what it's like to be on the other side of a podcast and to hear a voice for years and to feel like, man, like, I know this person. This person is my friend. I've never met this person in person, but I consider this person a friend because of the conversations that, they have inspired and that I've heard and that I participated with if I were just in the room, all these things. So it always feels really good to do that. So the moral of the story is, if you're out and about and you see your podcaster, not just talk about me, but anyone, go up and say hi. I guarantee you they love it. Unless they're like maybe Joe Rogan doesn't love it because he's like of that level of celebrity that maybe he doesn't. But anyways. Yeah. Let's see here. Things you learned. Team heavy whipping cream. Excellent, Lou. See, Lou. Thank you. Lou was the only person chatting with me in the sudden instant premiere this morning. And I don't fault anyone. It was because it was an accident and it was not on anyone's radar. But Lou, you hopped in there and you helped me not feel totally like I completely screwed up. So thank you. It was good to see you. End of this year and doing it from home. Yeah, I mean, I've wondered about that. So Twit, considering ending the lease on their space early and doing it from home. Well, I've noticed Leo doing it from home more. Are they kind of doing that more from home now already? I don't know. Maybe they didn't switch over entirely, or haven't planned to do that quite yet. But I've wondered about that. Like, I know that monetarily that lease is a huge expense and they have a few years left in it. And as we all know, like podcasting, like it doesn't need a studio. Like, like this is probably overkill. Well, it's not probably, it's definitely overkill for podcasting. The reason I know that is because the corner of my damn bedroom upstairs is a podcast studio. And it's literally just like a corner with a mic and a light and, a computer. So for podcasting, like it's the content. Usually it's the quality of the audio that matters. A big production studio isn't necessary, but I will say it was a lot of fun. Like we had a really great time. It was a kind of a playground, to play in. Paul says, my belief is Twit got too much overhead for a podcast. Well, I think the long-term view is you're probably right. I think the short-term view is it worked for a really long time before it stopped working. And if you're a business, you go with what works, and it worked. I mean, they've been in business for how long? Almost 2 decades. So that model worked. It's just the industry has changed to the point to where that model no longer works, or it doesn't work in the way that, it's being implemented there. And so now, they have to kind of shift gears. And that's a challenge when you've invested as much as you have and locked yourself into a lease and all this kind of stuff. But they'll make their way through. I'm convinced of that. I think that they will. I believe in them, and I really hope that I'm right. Yeah, certainly not going to renew their lease on the building. That makes a lot of sense, Joe. I mean, I don't see why they would. Thank you. I appreciate the validation. Tay, you can tell your stuff from the lighting. I mean, I'll be honest, a lot of what you see here has been total trial and error. Like the amount of YouTube videos that I've watched on 3-point lighting, even though I went to school for this stuff, it's just been so long since I had to do that I had to kind of remember. I mean, same with video editing. It had been years since I was a video editor, and I was a fine video editor. I wouldn't say I'm like an amazing video editor, but I can get the job done, and I understand what's important to look at and when it's good to get B-roll and all this kind of stuff. But that's where I really run into the challenges that I face right now, because in my production aesthetic mind, I want my videos to have a lot in them, but I don't have the patience to make it happen because I want to be putting out more stuff. And so I'm constantly this back and forth struggle of I want this review to have a lot more B-roll from a lot of different places that illustrate every point that I make has a B-roll that's matched to it, to illustrate in a visual sense and everything. But that takes That takes time, that takes organization, both from shooting it and editing it and making it look good. And I just I that balanced against the fact that I also just want to release shit and move on. And you know what I mean? Like and so I've had some really great conversations with other creators. And Shannon Morse, certainly going to have her on Tech Exploder podcast at some point. You know, she was one that really kind of beat this idea, the drum of this idea into me. She was like, you know, it doesn't really, the quality doesn't matter nearly as much as you think it does. People are there to watch you and to hear you, and they care about what you have to say. And is the information good? And you care about quality more than most people watching or listening. And you know, she even said, like, you know, on some of my videos, once I started realizing that, I started playing around with it and started, like, instead of using my really good camera, I would use a phone and record it with that and see if that changed things. And nobody noticed. Like, nobody even said anything. And you know, so it's like, okay, well, maybe people don't mind. So it's like, so prime example, my video today, this week, of Google I/O, expanded thoughts on Google I/O, whatever that was called. I think it's called Google I/O ... more like Google AI or something like that. And you know, which was really what that came out of, is I had all of these notes that I'd taken for AI Inside, and then I got done with AI Inside, and I'm like, I did all this work. Like, I created this whole, like, list of, like, things I wanted to talk about. Why don't I just record me talking about those and release that? And that was like an eye opener for me. It was like, oh, wait a minute, I could totally do that. And people might actually want to, you know, see that. And so I did, I recorded it all. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go quick and dirty on this. I'm not even going to edit it. I'm just going to, like, put a stab at the top and the end and just release it. And then I got to the end of the, you know, on the timeline, which didn't take me that long. I had to do a little bit of cleanup. Didn't take me that long. Then I was like, oh, but you know, this would probably be a lot better if it had, like, visual elements that at least call out the individual things that I'm talking about. So then I went back and I did lower thirds, you know, the title cards for each of the topics. And then I was like, well, now that I have the title cards, I've got this list of all those things. It could very easily, like, pull up the keynote and pull out, like, at least pull out the moment in the keynote where they talk about that thing, just as, like, an overlay, you know, to like ground it visually. And so then I went back into that. And, you know, at the end of the day, I ended up spending all afternoon, well into the evening, on it, which was probably more than it needed. But it's really hard for me to not do that, because I'm like, well, but it could be better. And if it's better, does it, you know, is it seen by more people? Is it, does that have more value if it's better? And you know, I know if I was watching it and someone was talking about something, the editor or the producer in me would be going, we were talking about this feature. Why not show it? Like, show it to me. That's what I want to see right now. So it's really hard for me to peel back the quality on that. The Nothing Phone 2A review, that was my attempt to, because every time I do a video, I'm trying something new right now. And I don't know if you guys even recognize that or realize that, but I'm really just, like, playing around with formats and hoping that at some point, like, I'm like, okay, that's it. Or maybe it's a combination. But anyways, with the Nothing Phone 2 review, my thought was, okay, how do I simplify this? Instead of going into my backyard and shooting all these complex B-roll shots, which I did a little bit of with the Nothing Phone 2A review, how about I just set up an overhead camera as my second camera? I've got my main A-roll, I've got my notes, and you know, it's not scripted, but it's bullet point scripted. And I just sync them up, do a little clap. That way it's easy to line up on the timeline. And when I want to show what I'm talking about, I switch to it on the A10 Mini Pro, because I have this little video switcher. And that saves me, you know, potentially that saves me from having to do a separate B-roll pass for all the individual points. And not only that, they're synced up to the moment that I'm talking about. So I can just, you know, switch between the two cameras and everything. And, you know, it's done really well. What is that at this point? The Yeah, it's possibly one of my most viewed videos so far. Almost 5,000 views, which isn't like insane, but for my channel, that's pretty solid. And that was released on the 4th of May. So 2 weeks ago. Dang. I'm proud of that. Um, and so what does that tell me? That tells me that like I can simplify. And it's not going to matter much, but I have to keep reminding myself of that because man, that tendency, it runs deep. So anyways, I hope I hope you're enjoying any of this. I realize I'm rambling and not always, and not always going to the comments, which is what this is really all about. Andrew Faithful rocks. Woo! Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm so happy we do that show. To not have my weekly hangouts with Ron and Win and Michelle. I mean, the team we have right now is so good. Like, and the new Android Faithful site is kind of a reflection of how balanced we are as a team, right? Like, we all really bring different qualities to the show. And I just think I am so happy that we do it and that we continue to do it. Even though All About Android went away, it paved the way. It kind of opened the door for us to do this on an independent basis. Google's given us their blessing, and want to do other things with us and everything. Just having a great time with it. So I'm really happy we do it. Tay says you need to make your videos more like other new YouTubers, washed out lighting and up nose camera. Are you joking? I can't tell. But I do wonder. I see a lot of other people on YouTube and they got really bright sets and everything. And mine kind of leans into the bright foreground, dark, colorful background thing. But like, does that matter? I don't think it really at the end of the day matters. Again, it's like, are people watching my videos because I'm in a whitewashed room with an up nose camera? But you're probably joking, Tay. So I get it. But and I have thought about that. It's not like I haven't thought about it. Thank you, Lon. Continue what I'm doing. I appreciate that. I will continue to earn money, maybe bank a little bit of that money as you progress, and it's better to have something in the bank. Well, I'm operating it almost entirely on what's money that's in the bank right now. I'm making some money, but I'm not making nearly what I need to make to do this like very long term. And so, I'm continually, my approach has been to just learn what I can, but operate as close to my gut as I can, my heart and my gut, because, I'm just kind of, I don't want to get too clinical about it either. Like, I just want to, I don't want to, I don't want to like create content that is by some sort of calculation that if I do this, then I'm going to make that, or I have more likelihood of becoming, this content becoming viral. And I mean, at the end of the day, the reality is you need a little bit of all of it, right? Like I need to create content that's evergreen, that can last a long time, and hopefully at some point be a long-term kind of gradual revenue source. I do need videos that have the possibility of popping, because that brings in new subscribers, brings new eyeballs, that sort of stuff. But really at the end of the day, like I just want to keep doing what I feel good about. And that's worked for me so far. Maybe I have lessons to learn. Maybe some of the stuff that I do that's worked for me so far doesn't work anymore, but I'm not getting that signal. Like the more I'm trusting my gut, the more I'm happy with the results. And so I'm going to continue doing that. Part of the reason why I did that Google I/O more like Google AI video earlier this week, because I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know if this is going to do anything, but I know it's not a horrible lift for me to just tack that on to everything. And yeah, so I'll continue doing that. Start drama with other tech channels. Yeah. Daniel says, when it comes to self-promotion, take yourself out of it and imagine you're promoting a product. No one's going to know about it unless you get it out there. Oh, believe me, I get it. I totally get it. That's why, when, someone from DTNS reaches out and says, "Hey, can you be on Thursday?" And it's 2 days from now, I say yes. Micah reaches out and says, "Hey, can you be on TNW?" I say yes, partially because I enjoy that and I enjoy them, but also because like I have to say yes to things right now. Just have to. Excuse me. Yeah, probably can't go too much longer, but oh my God, there's so many comments in here. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through to see. There's lots of really great comments in here, but if I highlight all of them, then I'll never get through them all. I think this happens every time I open up a stream like this. I'm talking about. Okay, don't really need to talk about kind of Twit's current predicament much. I think I've made my feelings known on that. Oh, hey, Kevin says, "Dude, I miss the old CNET White Room days with you, Tom, Molly, Veronica. That was when I first heard you step out from behind the boards." Wow, you're an OG. You were there from the beginning. Yeah, what's a bummer about that is there was so much, as I've said many times, I'm very nostalgic, and I have tried to do a good job of cataloging or keeping things from those early days so that I have them. I mean, it was a big deal at the time, and I have like best ofs, and that's fine. Like if all I ever have is best ofs from some of those shows, like the Tech News Today and Buzz Out Loud and stuff, and Gadgets. Although Gadgets, like I like having the full episodes because sometimes those full episodes are damn funny. And it reminds me of being in the room with Kelly and Molly and just the fun times we had, and Lindsay. Anyways, but so much of that, the Buzz Out Loud history is, if at least if you're going to CNET to find Buzz Out Loud, it's mostly gone. The only thing that CNET really kept is, yeah, it's just an open like office hours stream. You're good. Most of it's gone. It's been cataloged though and collected by Buzztown Archive. So you can find the audio of a lot of that stuff. The video though, like one thing that I want and I cannot find, and it's probably best because it wasn't very good, was, I don't know if some of you who followed Buzz Out Loud remember, but there was a time, we were doing Watch BOL. So we were doing the live video stream of the recording of the audio podcast. We didn't have a video podcast product. And at some point we were like, well, maybe we should. And the test was every Friday, me, Tom, and Molly would go into the main CNET TV studio and we'd sit around a round table. And it was like a fully produced like video product, with like a jib and everything, which is, in retrospect isn't that weird. I mean, Twit had a jib and everything, but at the time it was like, should BOL also be a video product? And so was that lined up with just the video? Yeah. Because I don't think that we were producing a video, like releasing a video podcast at that time of BOL. I think that was our introduction to it. And I can't find any of those videos. And it's probably a good thing because I don't remember those video versions being any good because we were all so out of our element. And for me, it was weird because I wasn't controlling the tech. Like, I'll be completely honest, those early days, like it was really nice for me, even when I was talking on the microphone, to be the role, doing the role that I was, because if I wanted to hide, I didn't want to be a part of a conversation, like I had full control. Like I could just shut up and only show, Tom or Molly or Veronica or whoever happened to be there, Rafe, Donald, and Brian, and not show myself. So it was nice to be able to hide. And in that studio, I felt very exposed. And I felt like, oh shit, now I need to elevate what I'm contributing to this show. And I just felt very out of my element. I was still really trying to figure out, like, what is my voice in all this? How do I feel about some of these topics? A lot of the bigger, more complex topics, I didn't know how I felt about them. I knew that it, upset Molly or Tom or whatever. And there were times where it was like, well, how do you feel about this, Jason? You know, I was probably making something up, which I mean, not entirely. I wasn't like faking it, but I certainly didn't know enough about it to make an educated decision. So, anyways. So, anyways, there's some of those videos that are just lost to time. And I don't know if they'll ever be discovered because CNET had them. And I don't know that anyone has them anymore. Let's see here. Just kind of scrolling through. Entering Faithful is 1 a.m. in the UK. Are you serious? Wow. That's right. Dang. So if you're watching live, like, you're dedicated. There aren't many things in this world that are 1 a.m. important to me. Maybe flying to like a really awesome vacation, that's 1 a.m. important. But watching a show live, I will wait till the next day. It's cool. And I wouldn't fault anyone for doing the same. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you for being here, Phyllis. It's really good to see you here, and for the encouragement. I appreciate that. Okay. And Lawn Dog, you got a lot to say, man. I appreciate that. A Bonsai Fan. That's a name that I haven't seen this time anyways. The key to the algorithm is open mouth thumbnails on videos. So true. And I have a really hard time like doing that. But I will say, a couple of years ago, I had a conversation with Renee Ritchie. I would actually say this because I can't remember if I've mentioned this. About 2 or 3 years ago, post-pandemic, pre-return to studio, I was damn certain that I was going to leave Twit. And I had I had the idea that like I was going to go independent. Not because I was like particularly upset with anything, but just because like I was like, you know what, like I'm just getting older. Like I'm not going to retire at Twit. I know that. So what is my next thing? And I started really considering it. And one of the ideas that I had was, okay, I'm going to leverage myself and become a professional podcast voice, And so that would be mentoring, that would be consulting. And I think that kind of the top of that was I was going to create a course. I was going to do like a really detailed, like soup to nuts, like I'm Jason Howell. I've been podcasting for 20 years or 15 years or whatever. I'm a professional podcaster with a ton of experience, and I'm going to teach you how to produce podcasts start to finish. And so I held a lot of really wonderful informational interviews with, people we all know. And one of those was with Renee Ritchie. I think this was prior to Renee's joining YouTube. I don't think he was with Google yet. Yeah, that was one thing that he told me. He's like, you know what? Everybody wants to, get down on creators with their thumbnails and the open mouth and the emotion and everything. He's like, you just got to get over it. He's like, it's what works. It's what's going to, lead your videos to more eyeballs. It does. The emotion, the emotion that people connect with in a thumbnail is something that you can immediately connect to. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you're on YouTube, you see 1 million thumbnails in a short amount of time. How does one person stand out from that? And I mean, granted, if everyone has their mouth open, that'll be the thumbnail for today, by the way. If everyone has their mouth open, none of them stand out. But, there's all these tricks to the thumbnail trade. And it's really hard for me to get over that, It's hard. But what I've been trying to do is pull out moments so that it's not a pose, but it's just like an actual, like in the moment kind of view of an emotional moment. And maybe it has a little bit of that slack jaw quality, or maybe it's just like, or whatever it is. I don't know. And I don't know if it's working. Sometimes it seems like it does, sometimes it doesn't. But anyways, you know what? Don't hate the player, hate the game. It's just what works. And I think I have to get over that. But I feel silly. Let's see here. Well, Jason, I watch a lot of live content all day long. You started this podcast at the same time as Uncle Bull Cow. So guess which channel I chose? Yeah. I don't even know who you are, Uncle Bull Cow, but I'm sorry I took lawn from your viewers today. I'm climbing in the rankings. I'm doing better. Yeah. I'm happy with the progress of the channel. I just really, I'm constantly looking at it going, how do I continue to scale? And because the reality is I need to scale sooner, not later. But there's no real way you can ensure that other than doing some of the silly tricks to try and get, and shortcut it. And I would like to think that, like, if I shortcut it, it happens organically and not because I'm like doing silly tricks. I'm certainly not going to pay for viewers and subscribers and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's not a world or a road that I will go down. So it's all got to be organic, in my opinion. Organic or nothing. Okay. I think the final note is Uncle Bull Cow is in the hot sauce world. Okay. That's good to know. Now I know a little bit more about these like crazy niches and stuff on YouTube. All right. I think I got to end this. It's been an hour and 15. And as I usually intend to do, I intended for this to be 30 minutes and instead it's been almost an hour and a half. So that's just because it's so much fun chatting with all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support, your ongoing support, your encouragement, your positive reinforcement. Man, I need that. I appreciate it. I really appreciate you all. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you are able to, wake up refreshed and not, filled with this massive amount of artificial intelligence that you've been hit over the head with this week. Not saying that it goes away, but we all deserve a break. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thanks, Paul, Kevin, Tay, Lou, Daniel, Lon, Rob, and everybody else who I'm not going to scroll through and say goodbye to everyone. Clinton, maybe I am. Anyways, you all know who you are. Thank you for being here. I'm going to shut this off now. And until the next time, have a great weekend. And I'll see you guys next week with a whole bunch new stuff. If I'm playing my cards right. Yes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, Tay. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And, you can support me on Patreon if you like. Patreon.com/Jason Howell. All the important things. Okay. Bye, everybody.